All right, well, welcome back to the iWealth podcast. Today I'm with Shawn Pomeroy and JP Eykyn from the Waseca office at iWealth, and it's Q3 just wrapped up. So Q3 2024, lots of stuff going on, guys, from the election that's coming to the Fed and all those type of things. And just want to talk a little bit about kind of where we at year to date, like what should we be thinking of? I mean, we put our eyes and our minds into our clients' like seat and sit in their chair. Like, what should they be doing and thinking of? But I mean, how's the market doing, Shawn? What's going through your head when you think year to date through third quarter?
Yeah, I'd say, mathematically we're at all-time highs, but we almost hit a correction back at July, August. We were right there. Mm-hmm. But with all the momentum and everything like that, nobody saw it.
What's a correction?
So market drops by 10%.
10%.
Pick your index, pick your poison, whichever one you're watching. But
Yeah.
to me, it's just an easy way of saying it dropped by 10%. And
Mm-hmm.
but we were right back to hitting highs again right after
Mm-hmm.
that.
Yeah, the S&P's hitting those highs. JP, when it comes to like different sectors of the market, like what's winning and what's not, like how are bonds doing, like what's going on there?
Yeah, so we've obviously seen that bonds have lagged this last quarter from a return perspective.
Why is that? What would you say?
It's interesting, as some clients think just because the Fed is cutting interest rates,
Mm-hmm.
that in turn the bonds that they own today are going to become more valuable. And we've actually seen some resiliency from the treasuries and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
I just was reading an article today that mortgages hit another all-time low dating back to August, and demand was down 17% on those mortgages. And that's not the way that maybe the media has portrayed that we should feel when they're, cutting these interest rates. We think that them cutting interest rate just automatically accumulates to our mortgage rates are going to go down, our CD rates are going to go down, which we have seen a little bit, but that just all interest rates are going to be impacted immediately, and that hasn't been the case.
Yeah. Shawn, we hear Fed's going to cut. Like we had these record increases that we've never seen before. And now we have one cut. They did 50 basis points. Our economists expect another one, maybe November. If one of your children were going to buy a house, would you tell them to wait because the rate's going to be lower a year from now? Like what, we just heard from Wayne at City National Rockdale. Like what's your thoughts on that? Mortgage rates.
Yeah, I would say if my kids were looking at buying a house today, I would probably coach them on waiting, not necessarily for mortgage rates. I would say, if you've got the capacity, you've got the dry powder, you've got the cash in the bank, and you're ready to go, wait for the home prices to come back more in line.
Okay.
When there's pain, there's the ability to capitalize on it.
Mm-hmm.
And right now, home prices are so high that I just think that you can outlast that and buy more house later.
Yeah.
But the mortgage rates, a lot of people had said, well, if mortgage rates are high, they're going to drop down. So buy the house today, take the mortgage rate today, and then refinance later.
Yeah.
The problem is that it's not a guarantee. Just because the Fed drops the rate, banks get to set their own rates. It's a market demand thing. If they think they could get 10%, they do it.
Right.
God bless America. They can do that.
Yeah.
But
so JP, I'll get back to you in a second, but I'm gonna challenge you. Like if I was listening to this, I'd say, okay, so housing at high, wait to buy. Stock market's at high. What would you say if they were going to put money in the market then? How would you answer that based on Dow, the S&P, right?
No, I know exactly where you're going.
Yeah.
Because 10 years from now, will houses be higher? I think so. 10 years from now, will the stock market be higher? I think so. We'll keep continuing to hit all-time highs. That's just my philosophy.
Yeah.
But I think that the housing is going to have more of a correction, and as long as their money wasn't tied up in that stock market, if they put all their eggs in that basket to say I'm gonna keep riding this growth thing and that's my down payment, I personally would tell my clients to not do that.
Right.
Go back and get that fixed rate
Yeah. Yeah.
keep what you got for that project.
Yeah.
Long term, yes, keep it invested or keep adding to it.
Yeah, and two different animals, right? One's a house, and hopefully it appreciates over that 30-year mortgage that you possibly have. But you also have the stock market with dividends and things like that you're buying more shares and accumulating as you go. So they're two different. But instantly our head goes to, well, it's high, stay out. Because we've had clients say that, like, should I wait? And sometimes the answer is dollar cost average into the market and things like that. Election, JP. Can you tell us who's going to win? No, I'm kidding. I won't put you on the spot. But what does the election mean to the portfolio? Because we are getting calls, emails from clients like, what should we be doing? What's the election mean coming up here in November?
It's got to be one of the most asked questions when I'm meeting with clients. My entire portfolio depends on who gets elected, and not that history is always indicative of future performance, but if we look back at presidents dating back to 1920, and if you put $10,000 into the market, and whether it's a blue president or a red president, over the next 10 years, the market doesn't seem to care.
Yeah.
It goes up with, they're all positive, right? And some of the highest highs over that 10-year period are from Republicans, and some of the highest highs over that 10-year period are Democrats. And it's the same thing on the other end. Some of the lowest returns can be Republican, and some of the lowest returns can be Democratic. So the biggest thing to think about is that there just might be a little bit more volatility that we're not always used to seeing in a non-election year. And the reason for that is because there's unknowns, right? There's what's going to happen with our taxes in 2026. Each president might have an opinion on it.
Right.
But even if they have opinion on it, that doesn't mean that they can act on that opinion based on what happens in the House and based on what happens in the Senate and things like that.
Right. Yeah. Having that divided government, Shawn, is important because nobody's going to get their baby through, right? If it's divided government, they have to come to the middle and get some things kind of put together. JP alluded to volatility. You did too. You said almost had that 10% correction. Like a client that's already invested in their 401k or an investment with you, Shawn, like what should they be thinking about going into this fourth quarter or kind of wrapping up this third quarter? Like anything that they should be doing different, anything they need to be paying attention to? What would you say about a client that could be a little bit nervous about the election or about hitting all-time highs?
I would say stop and relook at your goals and what's your time frame, right? If the market has a correction tomorrow, does that change your course? Does that materially change your ability to retire, your ability to buy that house, your ability to do anything? That should be the point at which you say, now is this stuff all aligned to what I need or want? But we've got to be able to look ahead and say, what are my goals? What's my time frame? And should I act? Not because the news gave us something scary to look at today. We've just got to take a longer view. But some of us, that longer view is short. We have a life change that's coming up quickly, and we got to be ready for it. Talk to somebody about it.
And fund your goals, JP, right? If you need to buy that house that we're talking about or buy that car, it shouldn't be invested in all large cap stock portfolio, right?
Exactly.
Fund it and make sure it's done correctly. Yeah. When we look ahead at that, the conversation that popped into my head, Mega Matt has did a lot of these with me in the past, has asked that question like somebody's nervous or wants to get out. And my always comes back to my head is what's changed. Back to your same point, Shawn, like what's changed in your life to cause you to take this money out? You lost your job and you're going to need these funds, or no, you haven't. So what do you need these accounts for? If it's long term, just ride this thing out. Like it's not rocket science if you can behave correctly.
There you go.
And make the right decisions, going forward. Anything you would add to 2000, like this fourth quarter and looking at next year? I mean, recession chances are low. Anything you would add, either one of you?
Yeah, I would just, add that this past week we hit the 2-year birthday of this bull market that we're currently considered to be in. And we have hit those all-time highs. And the other question is what's next? The last 16 bull markets, 12 of them have made it to their third birthday. Now, whether that happens or not, obviously no one knows. Economists can try and predict it and things like that. But it doesn't mean just because we're at an all-time high is that we're out of runway.
Right.
Yeah.
Matt in our office loves sweets. Like, can we start having birthday cakes for these birthdays?
Yeah,
there we go.
For the bull market.
Yeah.
I'm sure he would partake in that.
Exactly.
So you were going to add, Shawn.
Yeah, I was going to say, along with those highs and stuff, we've got an incredible amount of momentum going on right now.
Mm-hmm.
And this may be one of those times where, it easily reaches its third birthday. I'd say that we're towards the end of the year, so a lot of companies have given their guidance for where they're going to come in at. When they do it in the first quarter, it's a wild guess. They have no idea what's going to happen. You get to second quarter, and a little more is starting to take shape, right? The markets start to react a little bit more to that news when they say they're going to be up or down. You get to now, and we're pretty close to the end. Mm-hmm. We know more of what the results are going to be, barring some sort of a really weird catalyst that we don't see today. So I think that momentum continues, and I think it continues right on through the election. Volatility is going to happen. Mm-hmm. Emotions are going to change some of this stuff.
Yeah.
But if that's not the day you need to do something, don't do it that day. Don't react emotionally. Just
yeah. I would think it's safe to say that we're all pretty bullish on this market. Mm-hmm. We think this continues. Mm-hmm. We also think more volatility. Like, we've had the best September on record. October is typically a bad month. It started out okay so far. Mm-hmm. So we'll just see what happens here as we go forward. But I think, we're all pretty bullish on it. We're probably paid to be a half glass, full kind of people anyway. But I do think that the idea is make sure that you're talking to us if you have life changes or anything's going on in your life. So that
I would add to that, Brad. I think we are bullish on it. But I think that this is one of those points where we look at a performance report and we say, let's pat ourselves on the back. We're up. Yeah, we're talking solid double digits here. We're talking 18, 20, 30% in a growth fund. That's not normal.
Right.
Mm-hmm. That is normal for coming off of a down. Yeah. Right. We're hitting that stride of. We had a downturn. Call it 2022. This is the growth, the romance period afterwards. That will fade. Mm-hmm. It'll at least come back. How do you have an average? You got a high and you got a low. Yeah, right. We're going to get back there. So we've got to keep talking about, again, what are your goals, and is this portfolio still aligned to that goal?
Yeah,
right.
I know
and not be, just blinded that this is going to go on forever.
Right.
I know I've had clients who have wanted to fund certain goals that they have, and back to Shawn's point of eventually, there could be some volatility, and it has to revert back to an average. We've chosen to use some of those gains and those growth accounts to fund, some of those goals that they're eventually going to need money for.
Right.
Yeah. Don't get greedy. Do it.
Exactly.
Do it now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly. Well, thank you guys so much, and thank you, clients. We really, really appreciate it. If you have any questions or need to sit down and have an update, make sure you reach out to us. We're here to help take care of you. Thank you for your trust and confidence, and have a great day.